after a while then, well, you said Grandpa and Aunt Nell.
Aunt Nell came.
Aunt Nell came.
And stayed with Dad, oh, matter of a month or so. Maybe a bit more, but well, we used to try to bring them in supplies of everything, and they didn't eat, period. Looked like they were trying to see who could eat the least. That's what they were, yeah. They just failed. Both of them failed.
So then what did you do?
Well, then brought them out to our place, both of them. Locked the house up. And that was about the last that Dad went to the place because he moved out, period.
Uh-huh. So then he lived with you then?
Then he lived with me most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, Aunt Marilla wasn't able to take care of him either, and I didn't know it. She didn't tell me. That was well, it was a vacation day, very likely. But I can't remember, but the boys were all home.
It would have been about the summer of 43.
Yeah, I think so. And Billy was just a little fellow, and he wanted to know where the boys were. Well, I said, and I was washing, and I said to him, they're down in the woods. And I should have told him they're down in the back lawn, taking up branches that had been cut by the road men, and Jack and Jerry were moving them away. There were stumps and rubbish.
Well, you just misspoke.
I misspoke. Well, didn't pay any more attention. And when dinner time, lunchtime came, everybody was there but Billy. Where was Billy? Then it dawned on me. I told him to go, that they were down in the woods. Then everybody, Wayside was alerted. Everybody was alerted. We had a cornfield just south of the house, and Mary going up and down the rows of corn. I can't live without him. I can't live without him. All the kids from Wayside were there, and at last, well, it was getting kind of late. At last, Jack did go down to the woods, and here we had a tall bunch of barley growing, and it was quite tall. And there he was, asleep in the hay. Asleep. He got so tired that he just lay down in the grain and went to sleep.
2 years old.
Well, that was a long walk.
Yeah.
For a little 2-year-old.
I guess so. Very long.
Oh, God.
And a couple months later, when we had the thrashers at the house.
Oh,
or
yes,
at the farm.
that's right. It was a couple of months later. And I can remember the Sunday before, we started on Monday to do the threshing. It was in the barn, and the separator was put up from the barn floor, which made a nice height to come down on. And I worked all Sunday afternoon preparing the meal, luckily. Get dinner on the table. And that's what happened. When dinner was ready, the men came in to eat, about 14, 15, I don't know how many, at the table. And I saw Billy. Were you out with him? You were out there too. Billy and Daddy crawling in. Daddy was crawling in on his hands and knees, which he often did around the table. And Billy thought it was fun. Billy was laughing. It was fun. Both legs broken. He had fallen from the top of the separator down to the ground. That's what happened. Called Eddie Bruckman. Poor old Eddie. came and he took him to the, I couldn't leave. Threshing wasn't finished. Took him into the hospital. And then that evening, and I had Dad with me yet. He was in bed. And then after the threshers were gone, well, we had to clean up the yard, the straw all over and everything, and do the milking, and then go to the hospital.
And did the boys drive in then?
Jack,
But he didn't have a license.
he didn't have a license. But Jack and I went to town, went to Green Bay, and went into the room, and there was Daddy with a left foot. It was swollen about twice its size, and the blood dripping, one drop of blood after another from the foot. Well, it wasn't very encouraging. Then,
Were his heels smashed besides the legs broken?
He was really smashed. That one foot was really smashed. Bad. And the other leg broken. So, I don't know where I called. I think then we went to Mean Martin's, his cousin of Bill's, to talk about it. And then I called Dr. Walker. He said, I don't know whether he'll ever walk again. Well, that's what we had to come home with. So Jack and I came home.
So then not too long after that was the summer before Grandpa died, you said, 1948.
That's right. The Gibbons from Texas came right after school was out. Right after school was out. It was June. And they stayed until school was ready to start. Most of them, well, they went to a couple different places, but only for a couple days.
Long summer.
It was a very long summer. Because they didn't like daytime. They were used to being awake at night because it was hot in Texas. We could be out in the sun working, but they never left the house, ever. Only, when they would go somewhere, but that was very little. And I didn't eat all summer.
Why was that?
Well, Jack and Jerry were working at Kraft's Cheese in Green Bay, and they had to be at work at noon, at 1 o'clock. And they'd work from 1, well, I don't know, until quite late, 10:30 maybe. It was good long hours. And then they'd get home about midnight. So they had to have one decent meal in the day. So mostly at noon, we had our dinner. And then while they were eating dinner, I usually packed their lunches. The table was filled, of course. Everybody was eating. And by the time that I got their lunches packed and they were gone, the dishes were all cleared off. I had to scrounge around for lunch. Supper time, Agnes, I can remember Agnes frying potatoes. And they'd be black with pepper.
That's the way they liked the hot food.
Stuff. I couldn't eat peppered potatoes. They were hot. That's the South for you. They like hot stuff. Well, so I didn't eat very much that summer.
And then what happened? How did Daddy feel about all of this?
He was angry. I think he was angry at everybody but Aunt Catherine. I won't say any more. Catherine had them.
And then that fall,
right after they left for September school, then we got Dad back from Aunt Mary Ann's. He had gone to Murillo's and stayed, I don't know, I can't remember how long. Not too long, because she wasn't able to take care of him.
But you didn't know that.
No, I didn't. She didn't tell me.
And then he went to his sister's.
Then he went to his sister's. And then as soon as the folks were gone,
From Texas.
Jerry back home to Texas, then Jerry or Jack, I think it was Jerry, and I went down and picked up Grandpa and brought him home. And then
You said he was glad